Let's welcome in our morning guest. Vijay Chopra is now joining us. We'll have Siddharth Sadani with us. Also, Ruchit Jain will join us in just a bit. Mr. Chopra, before we go to your picks, any view on SBI? Any view on the numbers that they have declared? Do you think that the stock can outperform in the near term, or it's largely a neutral sort of a number?
Well, I think that the way SBI had been, consistently showing growth, my sense is that it was quite, featured into the stock price. But yes, I would say that, amongst the public sector banks, it was one of the best results that we have seen. We've seen an uptick in the NIIs, a downtick in the NPAs, and overall situation looks quite in control. So my sense is that SBI can slowly move up to 350 odd levels, and it would be a good stock to have in the portfolio. But for traders, I don't think it's going to show some fireworks, but yes, consistently it's going to show some growth, and it is going towards 350 without any doubt.
Right. Ruchit Jain is also joining us this morning. Ruchit, just on the technical side, how is SBI looking?
Overall, the trend for the stock is positive. Recently, we have seen that after consolidating for about 6 to 8 months, the stock had given a breakout, and also in the recent up move, the volumes have been doing quite well. So I think that the downside now from here on in this stock seems to be quite limited. Now, if you observe the positional chart, then the next resistance for the stocks comes around 326, 327, which were the highs made during Jan 2015. So I think this momentum would continue at least in short term up to 325.
Right. Ruchit, also could you give us your top picks?
Yeah, a couple of trading calls from a buy perspective itself. The first would be a buy call in Fortis. We have seen that recently the stock has given a breakout from a consolidation, and prices after the rallying higher have retraced 61.8% of previous up move. Also in Friday's trading session, it has formed an inside bar, which is a reversal pattern, and the formation of the same at the support level gives a higher probability of the stock resuming the broader degree uptrend. So from a trading perspective, one can look to buy this stock with stop loss below 196. We are expecting target around 217. And my second pick is a buy call in Container Corporation. Again, this has been one of the outperformer amongst the mid-cap space. In last couple of trading sessions, we have seen that the stocks have seen correction. This stock probably has shown a good up move with decent volumes. So on the higher side, we are expecting target around 1214 short term. From just from 1 to 2 weeks perspective, one can look to go long, keeping stop loss below 1175.
Right. Siddharth Sadani is also with us. Siddharth, before I come to you, Mr. Chopra, if you could just give us your top picks.
I would recommend 3 calls for today. My first call is ITC. Given the fact that GST implementation is not very far off, I think that all the FMCG players are going to benefit from it. And ITC is one stock which hasn't participated in the rally, so to say. The stock closed at 286. If somebody buys with a very short-term perspective, 300 is a target, and if somebody buys with a medium-term perspective, I think that 325, 330 is quite imminent. Although I would recommend a stop loss of 280 on the stock. My second call would be BHEL. The stock has corrected quite a bit, and I think that it is headed towards higher levels. The results also are awaited, and I think they're going to post good results this quarter. The stock closed at 164 rupees. It could be bought for a target of 170, and a stop loss of 160 is recommended on the stock. My final call would be Fortis. My friend has already recommended the same. I also think that the stock should show an up move and move towards 215 odd levels. Although a stop loss of 195 is strictly recommended on the stock.
Right. Siddharth, what are your calls?
Good morning, Pankaj. Well, the first idea would be KEA Industries with a target price of 276. If you look at the EPC side of the business, has grown 31% for FY17, whereas cable business was little muted. But exports have reasonably done well. We have seen growth in exports also. In fact, the new government in place in UP, the expectations are large that transmission companies may give up a lot of orders, and there would be a lot of orders and business in UP. So KEA Industries is expecting a good business out of from there. We can expect 14-15% growth in revenues, whereas margins are expected between 10.5% to 12%. and PAT growth can be expected around 24-25% for next year. So overall perspective, the capacities currently would be 72%, which is expected to be 90% by FY18. We like KEI Industries with a target of 276. The second idea would be from the cement pack, in fact from mid-cap cement, Mangalam Cement with a target of 412. They have energy efficient plants, and because of that they've seen a lot of cost savings in the current quarter. In fact, the EBITDA per ton increased to 452 rupees 452 from 147 150 odd rupees. So there is a good jump in terms of EBITDA per ton. Overall expectations from volume growth is quite good. We can expect around 11% CAGR growth between FY17 to 19. This company trades at around 6.5 times EBITDA per ton, and for EV to EBITDA and EBITDA per ton of $49. We expect a 7.5 EBITDA per ton of FY19 valuations. We like Mangalam Cements with a target of 412.
Right, these are the picks coming in from our guest. Mr. Chopra, did you look at Suzlon's numbers? Of course, there were a lot of one-offs over there, but still the sales is pretty high. Do you think the stock can react on the positive side today?
Well, I suppose so. And, I've been talking about the stock since some time. The stock has gone into the hands of a strong management post, the Sun Pharma promoters also came into the picture. And the company has been posting good numbers. I suppose that, slowly and steadily the stock can even develop from here. And if somebody holds on with a longer term perspective, I think that 40-45 is quite possible. So fairly bullish on the renewable energy space. I was earlier also fairly bullish on the same, but the numbers were not supporting. But since now the company has started posting good numbers, I think that slowly and steadily, if they maintain this kind of a performance, the stock can even develop. So it's a potential multi-bagger and can be bought into.
Right, but what do you think is lacking that confidence? Do you think that numbers have to come good for like 2 or 3 quarters? Only then people will start giving it a higher multiple?
Well, it always happens. Consistency is the name of the game. One-off numbers won't help. The renewable energy story is here to stay. We all agree to this. The way the prices have been falling down and the way the pressure is on the fossil fuel related energy and hydropower and the kind of energy requirement, the global energy requirement. I think that renewable energy is the answer. And if at all any company is able to show sustainable growth, sustainable profitability on the books, I think that that company should do good over a period of time. And definitely the company has assets, but the debt was a big worry, which still is. I won't say that the black clouds are over, but still since the company has started posting good numbers, and if at all they're able to do it for 3-4 quarters, I'm sure that we'll see higher levels happening in Suzlon.
Right. Siddharth, do you like Suzlon or any other names in the cap goods space?
Well, Suzlon is not in our coverage. Number shows that there is a lot of improvement in terms of performance is concerned. Of course, there was a Forex one-off also in this. But overall perspective, if someone wants to bet on renewable energy or solar energy for that matter, I think the time horizon should be 2 years and above. With this, we don't cover Suzlon, but what we believe is in the cap goods space, the company which we really like is Kirloskar Brothers. Kirloskar Brothers is into pumps and valves, and it is a market share of around 35-40%, which is again one of the leader in the space. It's a turnaround story. If you look at the numbers, it has come in black. Overall perspective, the provisioning of whatever Telangana and Hyderabad kind of provisioning which was done by the company is over. So company is in positive territory. We expect a good growth in Kirloskar Brothers in the cap goods space, and we believe this is one of the great performers in next 3 to 4 quarters.
Right. Siddharth, any view based on ITC, based on GST, on names like ITC or United Spirits? These are names where there is some ambiguity as to what will happen. Do you think that will lead to buying opportunity?
Well, till the entire clarity doesn't come on the cess and other factors, I think the syntax, what it is actually called as, I think, of course, there can be a good buying spree in this space. But if we want to bank on GST and if we want to bank on FMCG, what we are looking for is mid-cap FMCG space, and one of the company which we really harping on and we are putting our investments in that is Emami. We believe that Emami can post a 12 to 15% volume growth also in coming quarters. In fact, the other product mix are also playing out well. Kesh King is one of the acquired brand of the company. I think that is contributing quite a good numbers in terms of volumes are concerned. So Emami with a medium to long term horizon with a target of 1400 rupees on the back of beneficiary from GST looks very interesting.
Right. Ruchit, ITC had a big move on Friday, then it cooled off. But most of the reports are suggesting that there is an upgrade, or the problems or uncertainty is now behind. What is the level that you would watch out on ITC, say if it has to go up further from here on?
So I think already, although it had cooled off in Friday's trading session after a gap up opening, but still, if we observe the positional charts, and in last 1.5 months, this stock has shown a time-wise correction. And usually when we see after a time correction, prices give a gap up opening, and that too volumes increase significantly. That is a sign of resumption of an uptrend, which we believe that's what has happened on Friday in ITC. I think on the higher side, the stock should continue its up move up to 305, which is the reciprocal retracement of the previous corrective move. And once it is able to cross 305, the stock could even head high towards 315 to 318 kind of levels. So definitely, the biasness is positive, and now yesterday's gap area, which was around 281, has become a strong support for the stock. So any long position should be protected with stop loss below 280 for targets around 305 and then 318.
Right. Ruchit, view on Motherson Sumi. They also declared numbers. We spoke to the management. They were sounding quite optimistic.
Yeah, in fact, this has been one of the outperformance within the mid-cap space, where we have seen in the last 4 months the prices have continuously moved higher. On Friday also, the volumes during the up move, when the stock had hit its all-time high, the volumes were also quite good. So this is a good positive sign, and in every corrective move, 20 days exponential moving average has acted as a very strong support for the stock in last 3.5 months. So which is now placed somewhere around 403 levels. So although it's a bit far from current levels, but positionally I think the stock should head further high towards 450, 460 kind of levels.
Right. Just about a minute remaining for markets to open. Let's just quickly look at companies that will be in focus based on results. Mid-cap companies is what we are talking about. So RCF, 55 crores versus 40 crores is what they have declared. And revenues at about 2,200 odd crores. So that's broadly what you're looking at. Margins have been flat with a negative bias, but 4.9 is what the numbers show. Corporation Bank, 160 odd crores in terms of profit. NII, 934 odd crores. Overall, one would say that numbers were neutral or in line with what some of the other PSU banks have reported. Let's also look at Mahindra Holidays. The company has also given a bonus, but I think the numbers are flat, but the bonus may actually keep the stock excited. And Polyplex Corporation also declared numbers where profits actually went down on a YOY basis, but it's a company which got impacted by the crude oil prices. So that's why that is something which was known to the market. Let's look at what the market opening is. Expected to be on the higher side, 9,480. So it will straight away test the first level or the first first resistance that we pointed out to. If it actually tests that and sustains over there, it would actually be positive for the market. There you go, 51 points higher above the first resistance. 9477 was the first resistance. Let's see if market sustains over here. ITC is taking the markets higher. It's up around 2.3 odd %. You have Adani Ports, which is up around 1.4 rupees. ITC, I think, is also the top gainer. That's the GST impact that you're talking about as far as ITC is concerned. And that's why it's up around 7 odd rupees or so. It's a big weightage. In fact, the biggest weightage on the market. And that's why it's an important stock to track. GAIL, 2 rupees higher. IOC, 1 to 2 rupees lower. ONGC up around a rupee or so, rather up around 0.6. And Reliance up close to 10 rupees. HCL Tech, 5 rupees higher. and HUL flat with a negative bias. That's State Bank of India for you, 2 rupees down, so really not going anywhere. It had that first round of impact that came in, but then the management commentary, the brokerages that we just heard and saw, that's what it is reacting to. But clearly, no change at this point of time as far as SBI is concerned. Don't forget, it's the second day that it's reacting to numbers, so maybe the markets have digested or there was nothing new that surprised the street. Let's look at Just Dial as well. Recently, the stock has done well. However, the revenues were below estimates. Let's just look at what's happening with Just Dial. It's down 2% or so. Revenues were lower, but at the same time, margins did well. So I think that's what that is reacting to. You have V-Guard down about 2% odd. So sales growth was pretty strong, but margins were not that great, down about 2% odd. That's Suzlon Energy for you, 5% higher. Most of our guests pointed out that Suzlon would essentially do well. Let's also pull up Motherson Sumi. That's a second day results reaction that you're seeing. 437. 4% higher for that name, so extremely strong in terms of move coming in for that name. United Spirits was down, I think, 6% on Friday. It's up about 2% right now, so just trying to settle down, just trying to get that impact of GST. But again, even as Siddharth pointed out, that there are some uncertainties right now for United Spirits, so it can be volatile. Maybe a lot of people would wait for some sort of views to come in on this name. Let's look at PVR. That's down 6% right now. Again, for GST, there is an impact, and it's a slight bit of negative impact for PVR. But PVR is down 6% right now. Let's just wait and watch. It's a company which doesn't get much reacted or doesn't react much to news flow. But whenever it does, it tends to have a lot of volume. So that's a 5% decline, 1436, 1437 right now. Almost at the day's low. However, it's off the day's lowest point. So maybe it's just trying to settle down. So there is that impact of GST on PVR. But that's something which the markets have reacted to on the negative side. So it's down around 5.5%. Mr. Chopra, in terms of PVR, would you see a fall as a buying opportunity? They are great businesses. A little bit of tax changes here and there can only be near-term headwinds.
Well, definitely. I think that, these are just blips on the radar, and possibly we'll see, the stock maybe sliding down another, say, 40, 50 rupees or at the most 100 rupees from here. And I think that the kind of presence they have, the kind of network they have, the kind of businesses they have, I'm sure that the stock will come back very, very sharply. So it would be a buying opportunity if I get the stock around, say, 1300, 1350. It would be a great level to enter into the stock.
Right. Ruchit, what will be your call on PVR based on charts?
See, technically, we have seen that today the stock has breached its support level with a gap down opening. So I think it would be crucial to do how the stock manages to close in today's trading session. If it gives a closing below 1505 and the today's gap remain intact, then in short term it could remain under pressure and could head towards its long-term average of 200-day simple moving average, which is placed around 1300 kind of levels. So I think one should, if anyone is looking from a trading perspective, one should wait for today's closing. In case if it closes below 1500 levels, then there is higher probability of a correction up to 1300, where again it would be trading near a good support, or one should look to buy around 1300 kind of levels.
Right. So 1300 would be the ideal time to buy. Right now it's in a risky zone.
Yes, right now it's in a risky zone because the downside is much limited than what upside could be seen from a short-term perspective. So if it comes to 1300, then the risk-reward ratio would be very favorable at that point of time.
Right. What will be your call on United Spirits? That's also now up about 4% right now.
Well, off late, the stock has been a lot of volatility we have seen, but if we positionally observe the weekly charts, then the stock has managed to take a very strong support around 1800, 1850 kind of zone, which was the low registered in the month of December itself, though December also. So this shows that on every corrective move, this 1800, 1850 has become a very strong support from where buying is getting emerged in this stock. So I'm not much negative on this stock from current levels. I think till this stock is managing to hold this 1800, 1850 support zone, there is higher probability that the stock would continue to consolidate in this range of 1850 to 2200. So now the stock, after last 3-4 days of corrective move, prices are trading near the support end of the range. So there is higher probability of the stock again to move towards higher end of the range. So if anyone is looking just from trading perspective, then the positive should be biased for the stock to again head higher towards 2150 kind of levels.
Right. Mr. Chopra, any call on United Spirits? Do you think that's also a FMCG name which is interesting in terms of valuations?
Well, definitely, the valuations have corrected quite a bit, but the way the government is coming very strongly on liquor and liquor companies, I think that the worries are far from over. But yes, as a trading bet, you can probably see the stock running towards maybe 2200 or so. But yes, there are regulatory issues. There are issues from the government side, and if at all some kind of a shocker comes again, in some way, the liquor companies can take a beating. But yes, as of now, the stock looks good towards which is heading towards 2200.
Right. Siddharth, any call on United Spirits? We spoke about other names into detail. Any call on this name?
No, Pankaj, we don't have a coverage on this. But if we talk about United Spirits and the management DIGO, I think it's a great franchise to own. It's just because of management had done a con call also very recently where they are expecting double-digit growth, strong operating margins coming by. They have clocked down a 5-point agenda also to reach out to the consumers. Of course, regulatory issues is one of the hurdle, but company is trying to remove those hurdles and take it on its benefit. Apart from that, the kind of modification can come in the second week of July from the court in terms of liquor shops or consuming liquor on the highway. I think if some positive development comes by for United Spirits, I think that will be a great opportunity for the company. I think it's a great franchise, 50-55% market share in the IMFL segment. So the historical performance has not been good, but I think going forward, if things improve in terms of regulatory hurdles, I think this company can do good.
Right, that was about United Spirits. Let's just look at some other mid-cap names that are trying to open right now and are seeing some sort of movement. So United Spirits, of course, is a part of that list. You have Suzlon, which is up close to around 3% that's reacting to numbers, and BHEL is also doing well, so that's up around 2.5-3%. Motherson Sumi is up close to 2.5%. That's also a name which is doing well. Remember, it's the second day in terms of reaction that this company is having. Let's look at the stock of Titan as well. That's up around 1.7%, 1.4% rather. And that's they had an analyst meet on 20th of May, which is on Friday. On Saturday. They gave out some outlooks, but it's not an upgrade that has come in. It's just a business update, one would say. Remember that just after the Q4 results last week, they had a con call as well. So I don't think that nothing new was shared. Maybe, targets going ahead, what's their long-term plans. That's essentially what was shared into that particular meeting. Let's look at some names that are declining right now. So you have a Cummins India, which is down 2%. You have a Sun Pharma, which is down 1%. And you also have Jubilant Life, which is down close to about 1.2, 1.3%. Names like CESE are going down again, and Pharma as a pack continues to underperform. Mr. Chopra, you have always liked pharma as a sector and you've always been bullish about it. Do you think that the recent underperformance that some of these large cap names are showing, they are getting into an attractive zone? So long-term investors may now start to look at these names quite aggressively?
Well, when you say I was bullish, yes, I was. But lately, if you talk to me about the last 6 months to 9 months, a lot of things have changed. One, that US FDA has been very, very categorical on the manufacturing practices these companies have been having, and they have to set their house in order. It has come very strongly on the manufacturing practices. Number two, we have had some kind of news flow domestically where the government wants to introduce generics. Now, each of these companies are having brands which are some of them are over 500 crore kind of brands. So what will happen to those brands if at all every doctor is going to write a generic? So there are issues related to the pharma space. Although I like this space, it's a consumption story, but if at all this generic thing happens, and if at all there is some kind of a negative news flow coming from US, or the US administration, Trump administration comes heavily on the Indian manufacturers, so it could be a spoil sport, and we can see these companies coming down further. So my take is that right now we are not initiating any buys on pharma and IT because we are seeking clarity on what kind of news flow happens and what kind of guidance happens from the companies from the countries they export to. So US, Europe, seemingly our biggest markets, and the news has not been quite supportive from there. So I would say that it's better to stay away right now. Probably maybe 3 months, 6 months down the line, we'll have another view.
Right. Ruchit, any call on pharma sector or IT sector? Do you think it will start to outperform?
Well, at least not from short-term perspective. We have not seen any kind of that reversal signs coming in these at least in the pharma sector. On the longer-term charts, yes, there may be downside limited. No, the downside could be limited in large-cap names such as Sun Pharma, Lupin, and Dr. Reddy. But there are no signs of there are no signs of buying in coming in at these levels. So I think that these names, specifically the pharma sector, would now go into a consolidation phase wherein there may be some accumulation coming from long-term point of view. But at least from next 2 to 3 months perspective, we believe that there would be a consolidation phase in this sector.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out time for us. Always good to get a perspective from you. Just before we go, Mr. Chopra, let's start with you. Any disclosures?
Any of the stocks talked about, I do not have any personal positions. Our recommendations are definitely there for all the clients.
Ruchit, for you?
I don't personally hold any of the stocks that we have discussed or recommended, but we have given those recommendations to our clients now.
Siddharth, for you, finally?
I personally don't hold any of the stock which we have discussed, but clients are recommended on these stocks. Thank you.